everybody. Hello, welcome. Thank you for coming. We're gonna go ahead and get started because I'm gonna have to run out and get food and come back. So Marilyn's got a wonderful different workshop for you. We are gonna take a picture before you go. So that will be towards the end in case a few other people come too. So this is a very special part of the John and Betty Michael Distinguished Lecture in Art Education series. And part of the endowment is to do a workshop with advanced art education students. So this is a special thing. So it's always a part of it. So thank you very much for being here. We appreciate it. Thank you, Amanda, for coming too. So most of you heard Marilyn's bio yesterday. She is very esteemed in our field of art education and does a lot with curriculum and with Davis Publications and contemporary art, which this workshop is about today. So we are really excited to have Marilyn here. She can tell us more about herself if she wants to, and you'll hear more at the lecture tonight.
You're gonna be so tired of this. It's like, okay, we heard that. No more, please. One of the things that might happen in the course of this is I might ask so we have some groups. It's all dependent on groups. So I might ask that we kind of form groups. So that means that this table might have to empty itself from my company. But that, but it might not happen because, there might be people coming in. But anyway, thank you so much for being here. And so yesterday, and I have this plan to kind of go over some of the things that we talked about yesterday in terms of the importance of contemporary art and teaching with contemporary art. And I just want to say that what I'm bringing, what I brought to share with you is a new resource that, it's not new to me in terms of its components because I've been doing this since, I think I said yesterday when we were looking at the word cards, I've been doing that since before there were computers. And some of the same words and phrases I've used. But Davis, when I put together this middle school, the newest middle school book, which is called Experience Art, they actually agreed because they've been saying, oh, too many cards now, we can't do that, it's too hard to publish, and blah, 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 keep track of them, get them set out, and all of this stuff. They've got every excuse possible. So they finally agreed to create word cards for me and allowed me to create this resource called Investigating Contemporary Art. Stephanie, would you hold that box up? Here's what I have. Yeah, so there's the box. And it comes with the word cards that we're going to be using. And the other thing that I found, and I've been doing these textbook series since 2000, and they always had these large reproductions, which as a teacher I loved, and those are hard to come by, and it was really great to have these large reproductions. But the problem with large reproductions, if you are a person like I am, who really believes in working in having kids work in groups and do a lot of inquiry-based learning, the one large teachers would tend to have one large piece, and then the kids couldn't really see it, or then they ended up just being decorations in the room rather than really teaching materials. So I convinced them to put 6 copies of small reproductions, because the way I teach in my own criticism classes is I make these reproductions of whatever, and I pass them out the tables, and everybody works with small reproductions as they're, it's not ideal. You'd love to be in the presence of the real work, but anyway, that's the way I used to teach. So the set will come with, comes with 6 copies, so that you can have 6 groups of students of each of the reproductions of the artworks that I think I mentioned yesterday, start each of the units in the book. But the principle is the same. You could make your own and all that. But I asked my publisher if they would send your department a copy of this, and so you're getting a copy, and then you're also getting the book and the teacher's edition of the book. So that'll come, and you'll be able to explore it and so on. I think it's going to come to you guys.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, sure. And and the thing is you can make your own copies of the words. Because what I found, you'll see from here, is that when I really wanted to teach with this, you need more cards. You need more cards than what come with the packet. So I made my own cards, and you'll see I ordered from Amazon my own envelope envelopes. You get envelopes in this sack, but these little envelopes, I wanted them to be color coded, and so I love little envelopes for packets. I always put things in packets for my students, even when they're old people. You know, not just little people, but I mean, like, you know, my Rotary Club, you know, they love little packets too. So anyway, is that me?
Your son.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. No, I mean, it's good. I cut her off. So she might try again. So anyway, those envelopes, just so you know, I got them on Amazon, and they're for libraries. I mean, to put in the back of books, to put the little cards in, and that's what they are. So they're just perfect, a nice size, and they come in lots of different colors. So FYI. But you want to make your own packet. Oh my gosh. I'm just going to say I can't talk. I'm in the middle of a workshop and I cannot talk. Goodbye. I don't know how to, I know there's a thing you can more gently say that.
I'm busy right now.
What is it?
I'm busy right now.
Oh, is there something on there?
Yeah, you can swipe up and be text this person.
Okay, all right, thank you.
We're not disturbed.
All right, thanks. Thank you for your patience. Okay, so I have this, I like the clicker. All right, so this is kind of a review, that we talked about yesterday. If we're thinking about the long run, we want kids to have meaningful art making experience, and we want them to understand that art is integral to their own experience. And as they move into adulthood, these are all the things we want them to be. Lovers of art, empathic, active, creative, critical, reflective, and joyful, right? And so I happen to believe that spending time with artworks, and particularly contemporary artworks, made in response to the real world by artists working today, art makers working today, is a really, really poignant way to get kids to be joyful and reflective and so on. And that's all part of taking the student seriously as an art maker. And I always talk about how important it is to think about the student, whenever they're doing anything, I'm always in favor of saying, how does that connect to what you did last? And how, now that you're finished with this, what direction do you think it's gonna take you in? So they understand that it's not a once and done project, it's their art making practice, and they're reflective about it, and they think about themselves as a maker with a past and with a future and a present. So, and the book, all which you'll have access to take a look at as a model or a resource or whatever, you'll see that we, the kind of questions that we ask when they're doing studio experiences and so on, we encourage that kind of thinking. And also we have a whole section, I wish I could show you, I didn't bring the book, but to do this particular book, I enlisted the help of, I think there were 15 middle school kids, and from all over the country. And when teachers gave me names, and so we had Zoom meetings with their parents and their teachers and their principals. And there's this one kid, Peter, I'll never forget what he said when I said, so we told them everything that they had to do, because they were going to keep a process journal and then share it in the book. So this is Maya's process journal when she's exploring messages about herself, things that she wants to say about herself. Anyway, I said to Peter, so Peter, do you understand everything that I'm saying and what I'm asking you to do, and are you willing to do it? He said, he's 12. I've been waiting for this opportunity for my entire life. So I have these very willing and wonderful kids work with me on this book. And so you'll see their process journals throughout. And I always have two. I don't want to ever just show one, because if the kids are looking at it, I want to make sure that the works that I'm showing are different enough so that they don't see this as a model, but rather an example. So as I said yesterday, contemporary artists provide all these insights and ways to see the world, and they model this is what that I really think is important, they model ways to live in and respond to our contemporary world. So all that said, and this, I wanted to point out that the national standards really recognize this and the connectedness of creating with investigating, connecting to history, connecting to culture, connecting to one's personal life, connecting to others, responding to artworks, presenting their work, seeing how artworks are presented, and so on. So all these things are, they're called artistic processes because they are involved. But then in the standards, they're scaffolded so that you don't expect a kindergartner to be able to talk with a lot of sophistication about some artwork or about their own work for that matter. So if you've spent time with the standards, you see that. And we talked about Olivia Goody, her wonderful article reminding us that, contemporary artists don't really work so much all the time with elements and principles of design. I mean, they're there, but they do more than that. And she introduced these, what she called principles and I called strategies. And these are some of the ones that she introduced and that I include in the book. So now, all that said, yesterday we looked at this work, Village Green, and by Von Bell, and we, suggested that you could think about the contemporary strategies that this particular artist used that aren't typical, aren't what we normally think of. All right, and then the other important piece is, and this goes way back because he's dead now, and but he came to my art criticism class with my students, and they interviewed him, and the student said, "What do you think your job is as an art critic?" And Klaus Curtis said that. I see my role as providing you with a kind of doorknob. And I use that metaphor all the time. It's a way to enter. It's not the truth. It's not the artist's intention. It's a way to think about the artwork. And then in a collaborative setting, what's important is that we share those ways to enter. There's no one way to enter. There's lots of ways to enter, and they're always shifting and changing. But we can learn more the more we look, the more we talk, the more we listen, and invite others to, engage with the work. So that's the premise from where I start when I engage folks. And that's another. I could spend an hour on that one, but I won't. Oh wait, so I want to introduce you to this work. I'm going to go do the thing that we did yesterday, but today we'll use this work just to kind of practice, and then I'm going to have you work in your groups with other artworks. But those artwork, those reproductions, if we could have one here to share, and then put the other ones over there to share, so that you can look more closely at the artwork. So again, just before we get started with this, just tell me what you're seeing.
I'm seeing what I believe is a Hindu goddess, and it looks like she is in a position of, not a menorah, because it's not enough candles, I think, but it looks like some kind of religious,
It reminds you of a menorah,
Yeah.
menorah-like. Yeah, we can say that. Yeah. Somebody else? What else do you see? I mean, we're really just doing an inventory here, so.
There's a sphinx or some kind of animal-headed or human-headed animal playing a horn in the corner.
Right, exactly. What's that remind you of?
A lotus flower.
Oh, yeah? Yeah. Lotus flower. Do you know, I have to tell you something, I have never noticed that lotus flower. Thank you.
Well, you're welcome. I just did a tour on Shiraz.
Oh, Shikander.
Yes.
Shikander. Shaldi and Sikander.
Yes,
I love her.
A lot of her stuff comes out of the lotus.
Yeah, that's right. And I've never noticed that. I love it. That's why I'm here. Yeah, exactly. Okay, so, but what does this remind you of? I mean, have you seen anything like that, like in a corner like this?
It looks like, like a medieval illuminated manuscript, one of those weird little creatures that might be the marginalia.
Yeah, that me too. Others, I saw a lot of nodding heads. What else do you see that you're?
there's also a horned snake It's wrapping itself around the frame.
Yeah, yeah. And I love that, it's not a snake, but I love what the snake is doing, added to it, yeah. Okay, any others?
Gold frame.
Yeah, pretty elaborate. Yeah. In the language. Yeah,
There's two.
are these the same?
No.
Mhm.
One of them is Arabic.
I think so, yeah. But they're definitely different. Seen Arabic and Hebrew. Okay, well, we've kind of looked at it. We may see more things. If you try any of these, do any of these words fit in your mind? Is there a way that you could make them fit?
I think rhythmic.
We'll talk about that.
So the rhythm of like the candles at the top, it's in like a clear pattern. Her arms like on the side are like all evenly spaced. It's like very symmetrical when it comes to like the top portion.
So you get to use those elements and principles. No. Anybody else? Come on, let's hear yours.
Cool and warm colors.
Yeah, absolutely.
Open, her arms are open, her eyes open.
Yeah, that's nice. Okay. See how this, you just look and the words sort of prompt you to see things you might not see. Don't you think that would work with kids too? So like if they see a word, they might go, oh, I see something that's open. And we're just pointing things out. We're not saying, no, it's not. Okay. Anybody else? Any words that you think?
Flat. It's not really much like 3D or in the round. It's very
Tension, she's balancing on her one foot, and there's like these animals that are creating tension with like the snake sharp tooth.
Nice.
Yeah, especially the movement of the snake teeter up.
Right.
Yeah, like
it's simple, but it's ornate at the same time. Like I think it's a pretty good like contrast to both, especially in the color as well, like the warm and cool tones. But I really appreciate like, all the attention to detail to like her and just how elaborate her clothing is and the bracelets she's wearing near the top of her hands. And all the jewelry that she's wearing is really beautiful, but I also appreciate the very like simple, plain background that she's on, and how like much more plain the animals are as well to bring more focus there.
Does this remind you of anything?
Maybe henna.
Lisa
Remind you of Hannah?
Yeah.
Okay, let's move on. What about expressive words that fit?
powerful.
Okay. Powerful, would somebody like to say how?
I just think like I see like not notes to like traditional ideas and like religion in this. I don't know how or why, but like with the choice of language, it does remind me of like a manuscript or like a book of hours. As well as like there's a lot of symbolism, and then fire, and then like she looks like powerful to me. Like that looks like some sort of like god or deity or something that people would believe.
She's a baddie.
She is a baddie. I was like, oh.
Any other? Oh, you're looking at those words.
Intense.
Intense. Wanna say why?
Kind of like the same reasons for powerful, because you got those little creatures there and all those arms. It's like,
Yeah, that's right.
Whoa.
It's really bold and I like it.
yeah.
But I think the boldness comes from the artist willing to mix several traditional ideas into one and making it its own thing. Not only that, but I think it's really bold how they chose to do the background where it's like a dark red that like fades more into a black, while her arms, the goddess's arms, are like a blue that turns into more like a really light blue that really like pulls your attention to there and makes it like really bold.
you know about blue and skin color?
Bro, if you seem like you're sitting on something there, and it's like, oh, it's shooting at you. Your face. Please help. I was just gonna say that, like, it's very like, it's not a natural depiction of someone normally.
Yeah.
I was just gonna say, usually it just means that, depending on the culture, that they might be like a god or a deity.
See?
Alright. But we are noticing that her skin is blue, right? Yeah. Okay, so, we'll start with, let's go here and see if you can find any, oh, no, I wanna go back there, sorry. Teaching moment. So, asking the question, does anybody see a word that does not fit? That, you would have a hard time making a case for?
Cheerful.
Okay.
Timid.
Yeah, timid, hesitant, nervous.
Unsure.
Right, so, but you see that you have reasons for that, and those reasons have to do with what you've noticed in the work. So kids who might be afraid to say, to be, come out with a word that they think matches, or fits, they can say what doesn't fit, and they have a reason that based on what they're seeing. And so, it also encourages them to look carefully, because that's what this is about, right? Really paying attention. And and of course, the whole thing is about confidence in the kids. You want to give them every way that they can participate and feel safe and welcome and all that. So that's another way that can happen. Now, sometimes kids will say, "Oh no, it is." You say, "It's not unfriendly," or that's a double negative. It's not cheerful. So then somebody says, "Oh, it's not cheerful," and then because kids do this, they, "Oh, I think it's cheerful," And so what's important is that they share their reasons, right? Yeah. Okay. So one of the tips that you're going to see in the list of things, like just tips for engaging kids in talk like this, is that it's not debate. It's not about a debate. This is about we're like moving the discussion along. It's not about who's right, who's wrong, and I need to prove my point and all that. It's not a debate. And then the more the kids learn that and feel comfortable in that setting, the more they'll engage in this on their own, which is the point, because when they leave your classroom, you want them to grow up and go out to anywhere they can and use these skills. Okay, so themes and ideas. This artwork is about nature, is about personal or cultural beliefs, is about technology, but any of those fit?
Cultural beliefs.
Okay, is about cultural beliefs and values. We have lots of reasons to think that, okay? Anybody else?
I feel like teachers' important lessons could be part of it, depending on like the story of the deity.
Right. We need more contextual information, don't we?
Yeah.
Yeah. So we need more information, but we might go there, right? And we might go about status and wealth, We might end up there. Any of these?
I think definitely about personal identity, because this feels like very much towards a specific target audience, or just like very deeply interpersonal to the artist itself.
Yeah, I'll agree. I've seen one nodding heads, yeah. Feels like, and I'm with you on that too, but I also think there's some idea of beauty that you might, this might be in part about, maybe not the whole thing, but that seems to be sort of a strand somewhere in there. Yeah. Any of them strike you as yay or nay?
I feel like I need more context for all those.
Yeah.
I feel like it could in a way be about social issues, knowing how some of these religions have interacted in the past before.
Okay, so this is when and you ask for it. This week we fund the conversation with information about the artist. Here's a picture of the artist, B'nai Israel Jew from India, now living in the United States. I am a Jewish artist, creating cross-cultural and trans-cultural art. My perspective bridges the traditional and the modern. sparks discourse across cultures. This particular piece is from a Finding Home series. Now, these are, can I have them bigger? Yeah, I think these are bigger. So, what you get in the packet, what you'll get in this Investigating Contemporary Art packet is you will get a piece that looks like that first thing I showed there. It looks like this. And they're PDFs, and then you can make copies of them, and then you can cut them up, and you can put them in the packet, and then you can choose the color that Sonia is going to have in her packet. And so these are those little cards that talk about that. These are artist information cards. Very technical term. So here, let me just pass. Why don't you pass some of those out and see if any of them help? There's all, and I'm sorry, yeah, you can read some of these up here. Okay. Yeah. So maybe read your card and see if there's any that you think might help us as we try to figure this out.
So Sonia Benjamin says that she feels like an outsider wherever she is, and that she also feels at home wherever she is.
Interesting.
Sonia uses blue skin color in this image to symbolize being the other. Blue skin was traditionally used in depictions of the male Hindu gods Vishnu and Shiva.
Sonia grew up in a Jewish community while attending Catholic school. She was raised in India, a country with majority Hindu and Muslim cultures. She later moved to the United States.
So, you grew up in India, and went to a Catholic school, surrounded by Hindu and,
She grew up in a Jewish community
Oh.
in Catholic school, raised in India, but the majority was Hindu and Muslim.
okay.
Yeah.
Ready? Is this helping? Great, okay. Any others that you can find over here?
She mentioned, this is a quote from her, "I feel a strong need to make art that will speak to my audience for similarities, not our differences, as I feel I can contribute to a much needed repair or food through my art."
Does anybody know that, the phrase to calm?
I think
How's it spelled?
Tikkaun.
Oh, T-cola.
Title of the word.
Okay. And it's, it means to repair the world. And it's a very, in Judy Chicago, I know this because of my work with Judy Chicago, that was part of a very important part of her work for the dinner party, and her work in general, is to, and her focus on social justice, is to repair the world. But my Jewish friends tell me that it's part of their culture. It's what they learn as children, and always, I mean, like my good friends, you know, we were who grew up in Baltimore, were at the Washington Mall like every other weekend growing up, you know, in some sort of protest or whatever, big activists or whatever. Okay, any other ones that you would like to read us?
Sonia Benjamin is aware of one of the central ideas of her Jewish heritage, which means repair the world or make the world better.
Oh, thank you. We needed to know that. Is any other contextual information from the artist that we haven't heard yet?
She created a series of artworks called Finding Home, in which she explored many ways to use.
So,
In my paintings, I raise questions about what and where is home, while evoking issues such as identity, immigration, motherhood, and the role of art in social change.
So this is really helping us understand her work. Here's the other thing that we sometimes do is look at other pieces, right? So sometimes like this is part of Finding Home, this is part of Finding Home, this is part of Finding Home, and I believe this one is too, but I can't see it. But what do you see that, you know, you recognize that, you know, these works might share with the one that we've been focusing on?
Blue skin.
There seems to be like a nod to American culture in the one.
Yeah.
Is that a? Whose hat is that?
Uncle
Sam.
Sam.
Uncle Sam.
But she's also got the menorah.
Yeah.
Onion.
And she's
Instead of paintbrush.
paintbrush,
Is that milk? What is that?
another, some sort of like gourd might be.
Oh, no, the top left.
There, oh, that's like what was at the top of the,
Like a lamb turkey.
Okay.
of that can. But notice that these are, yeah, I mean, she's wearing all those different identities, right?
Oh, yeah.
And then this is more dreamlike, you know, but it looks, also reminds you of those miniatures, right, that you were talking about earlier? Okay, so, here's another one, much more complicated. You must save us from their wrath. There's a lot going on in there. Okay, so, I mean, I don't wanna spend the whole time on this piece because I want you to do your own thing, but so you can see that you could go look further with this piece and say, again, how is this similar to and different from the one that we first encountered? All right. Now, those contemporary strategies. Okay, now you have pink, those little pink envelopes. The pink envelopes carry with them, have in there the cards for all the contemporary strategies. So if you, here's some more pink cards, so I'll pass them out to everybody. I think everybody can have their own set, but please don't mess up the sets. Yep, here's two. Here, anybody need another one? There you go. Okay, so there you'll see the strategies, contemporary strategies, and a little description of each. Yeah, I mean, really, can you make a case for any of her use of any of those?
For this piece specifically?
Yeah, for this particular piece, the one that we're focusing on.
Appropriation. So like she's including different objects, even though they're of her own cultures, and she's utilizing those symbols and like objects in there quite well.
I know that you know a lot about appropriation. This is an important piece of your undergraduate experience here.
Juxtaposition.
Yeah, and what's she putting next to you?
Placing placing unrelated objects or ideas together to suggest a new unexpected meaning.
All right, yeah. You all agree?
Yeah.
Yes, Camille.
Text and image, so she's using those two different languages to add in more meaning to her artwork.
Yes.
Going off of Carrie's recontextualization, presenting familiar objects, image, or ideas in newer and familiar settings to suggest new meanings or ideas.
By the way, we didn't meet, so I'm sorry. Here. Hi, Griffin. Nice to meet you, Marilyn. It's okay, I got it.
Okay.
So, anybody else see one? Oh, yeah, thanks.
Personal narrative.
Yes, indeed. Let's hear it.
Using a personal life story to communicate ideas.
The hybrid be mixing different subjects not usually found together to express a new idea.
So, what do you think about these contemporary strategies and their use here? Yeah.
I think a lot of it can apply to any work because they just kind of ask them questions of what the work is trying to accomplish with like its messaging maybe. Or with its like the actual things in the work, like the content of it. But like, I think almost all of these might be in this work, but I'm not sure if they would be in any given work period.
Right, yeah, so if you think about, these are some of the strategies that we encounter with contemporary art that maybe we didn't encounter if you're looking for, like the two I posted yesterday were the mango sunflowers and Frida Kahlo's portrait. You know, maybe you find some of these used, but it's not sort of a part of the practice of those artists from the past, that as much as they are, these kinds of strategies are part of the practice of contemporary artists. And by paying attention to this, again, what's the point? To get more understanding of work and to understand that this is an artist who's modeling a way to deal with her own personal narrative, which in her case, includes all these different cultural influences on her identity. And so I use her in my book. I use her in the unit on identity, and she opens the unit. But as you said, we could use her in a lot of different units, that have messages as a theme, for example, celebrations, because we could be talking about her celebrating her identity. Okay, so what we would normally do is write out a thesis sentence that we would collectively put together. And this is something that I make a case for with teachers of other subject areas, because if you come up with a thesis sentence, then you can write 4 more sentences, and you've got a paragraph that really talks about the meaning of the work, so offers an interpretation. So this, if you can collectively put together the work of Sonia Benjamin is about, and then you craft a sentence. It's not the only sentence, because you would find that every group in the class would create a different one, but then they could support those. And then I've done this with my own students who put up the work and then put up the sentences and paragraphs that then follow those. And then the idea of working with the language arts teacher, then you can talk about how this is the beginning of an essay. And by the way, I just shared this. I had a friend I used to do aerobics with back in the day, and she taught writing at a community college. And she'd come in exhausted every day. And for aerobics, and I'd say, "How are you doing?" She's, "Oh my God, I just can't get my students to write. They just won't write anything." And I said, "Well, she said, "I do everything. I just can't get them to write a sentence." I said, "Have you ever shown them works of art?" Well, she had a high percentage of Hispanic and Latina students. And so I said, "Have you ever shown them the work of Frida Kahlo?" And she says, "Oh." So I took her one of my packets, which has lots of works by, reproductions and these cards, and then sentence starters, the whole idea of creating a thesis sentence. Oh my gosh, it changed her life, and she then presented at conferences all over the place and talked about it. And one day I said to her, "Do you want another artist?" "Oh no, they're good with Frida." All right, so let's play. Okay, so you've got please keep the pink cards that you have together in the envelope so that they don't get because the nightmare of having these cards is the hour at midnight before you teach on your bed, you're trying to sort them out, And so keeping them together is a good idea. How much time do we have?
It is 11:16.
We're supposed to end at
12.
Oh
45 more minutes.
my God. I guess.
That's my collection of pictures.
So that's great. All right. So here's what I'd like to tell you about. We have what I'm going to ask you to do, and you can decide if you want to work with like, do you want this to be one group and this to be one group, or do you want to split it up somehow? I brought packets of artists, some of which I showed yesterday. So this is Johanna Vasconcelos, the Portuguese artist who has this fabulous website and takes you on a tour of her place in Lisbon. So you should do that. Anyway, so this is the one. So this is a packet, and her cards are in red, and they're back here. So there's one on Johanna. There's one on Jeffrey Gibson. I don't know if you know his work, but I saw this piece in the Whitney Biennial and decided, yes, I needed to have it in my book. There's the one that we did yesterday. If you want to return to that, the Village Green by Von Bell. This is Janet Eckelman. I also showed her work. She creates these large. Are you familiar with her work? There's a great video about her because she talks about being on Fulbright, and she's like in Indonesia, and she was going to paint, and all her materials were lost in the move, and so she's like devastated. She has to produce artworks for her money, and so she's like watching these fishermen in their nets, And so she's inspired by these nets, and she learns how to make them. And her project becomes making these enormous nets using the basic way that the fishermen there were using them. And then now she works with computers and engineers, and she creates these structures, and she works with all kinds. It's a wonderful STEAM artist because she has to work with I had a whole activity where they have to figure out why would she need to work with a biological engineer. Well, because she needs, the birds are gonna be flying around, And so all kinds of people to create things. But anyway, that's Janet Eckelman. And this is, I also introduced Carl Unash. He's the, I think, Minnesota artist and who celebrates agrarian culture in the Midwest. And here's Yinka Shonavari. I also showed his work. Okay, so there's 2 packets of each artist. So it's okay if there are repeats. And you may just simply decide who you want to work with and come over and get a packet. And then what happens is these are the green cards are themes and ideas. The purple cards are descriptive, and the blue cards are expressive. So basically everybody should have a set of, 3 sets of cards: purple, green, and blue, and pink. Okay, and there are more over here if you need more. So each person should have those and then use those in the discussion. And I have to say that I've taught for 50 years, and I've always heard that I'm not clear about instruction. In every teaching evaluation I've ever received, she just isn't clear about instruction. I try so hard.
Or except that, like, having prompts can help with clarity.
Yeah.
Like, verbal clarity doesn't always come up, and then having, like, really clear, like, this is for this is for this is maybe like, I think it's really laid out really nicely.
Oh, good. Oh, good. Well, I'm glad. Tell my former students. Okay, great. Did you all have your sets?
Yeah, we can share this.
Because they're gonna be different.
Yeah.
Everybody's gonna have different
Oh,
colors.
is it just color codes too?
All these are additional artworks.
Yeah.
For fun, for conversation.
That gives me.
Oh. Okay, so you should have it then. Keep ready.
Even if we're both.
Yes, even if we're.
There might be different.
So each person in their sets should have their own set of cards, because
What was
there are
that?
differences, Oh yeah, I'll take these. Have another one of these. Oh, and notice, here we go, this is like where I stopped this. There's a whole thing on the back that gives you the process.
Yeah, I looked at that, I liked that.
So on the back of the card, on the back of the reproduction is the whole process.
Oh.
Yeah,
Even more instructive.
yeah, that's right. I'm sorry. I forgot.
No.
I forgot how clear I was. Okay, this is long.
I think finding clues is where we start. Oh, we're going to do.
Yes.
Finding it right here.
Yeah.
Yes. So initially, for you, out what's in any of the other
I know,
Oh.
This blue and the green are here.
I think it's the paper.
The purple has the descriptive words.
Okay. Those are expressive.
Yeah, right. So when we went through the process before you came, and we talked about the work to begin with, and then we used the finding clues cards, the descriptive word cards to identify to describe the piece, and then we use the expressive words. That's all under. So finding clues is all about description basically, and then making connections is all about interpretation. Okay.
Your master's program should also be part of it. Like your school. Your school that you're teaching.
Well, then.
If you get a PhD.
I don't know.
Listen,
But I think
We'll get, we need to make today. We can talk about. Yeah.
circulating.
Yeah.
One of the, this is one of
It
the
does
panels
not.
from
It does
the
not.
first main piece of the class.
Movement.
And
I agree with that. I would say also
so
cool
probably
color.
that.
Yes.
Yeah.
It seems like a group that's very regular. This is not regular.
It might be facing
I
away.
feel like it is a little regular in some of the
I think it's
Yes.
Yeah.
regular.
Yeah, and then the order is
Is
like,
a way.
oh, like color, just come back.
It's not striking. I was like, this is I felt like
And
you
I
were.
guess you can do the ruminant's the great masticator, and then like the Sigma images of a face eating and ear horns. Which is the device that also like kicks and beats and there's like
And
resonance between the contents of the image and the object the image is on.
I wonder if he created also making class. I would not say dark, or if he like, I would not say saturation.
No, okay, so, yeah. I mean, I'm sorry, I should find out, but it might be
Yeah.
So, well, they're all supposed to be all the same.
Yeah.
It's like a
There's knives and there's like sheet metal. Is that what it's called? Oh, yeah. There might be a.
Well, the others are kind of like everything.
Yeah.
It's like saws and sickles and knives.
It's just a lightsaber.
Oh, and I-
So like that's kind of why I thought that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then I think that was
Because we have the purple word, the opposite, any other connections from or lights, yeah.
Geometric, this is like a man-made machinery.
Oh, yeah, and that geometric machinery like creates frames for all the objects are also
Yeah, I think they
geometric.
need like
Oh,
Oh,
So-
okay, well.
No. I meant like so there's more.
Yes, yeah, but I'll also make sure myself,
Yes.
second your accessory,
Yes.
keep them coherent.
Oh, no, those are context cards.
I would not say this is super silly.
Okay, and then I
It
think
only
it's
is
kind of
just,
reading.
okay, I mean,
Yeah.
this reminds me a little bit of like.
Like if you just say that in the sky. Yeah.
Yeah, but even when we were doing the initial description, we had all those binaries of like fragile and strong and like cool and decoration and all of those things opposite like.
It's contrasting.
Oh, it's so serious.
I think you're serious.
Oh, we haven't yet, yeah.
Why?
Something
It
outside your
seems like
mean
the
for
same
order.
class and also
Something
because
else might be
lighting
like
makes it seem very like
That's
fancy.
kind of like odd. Like,
Although it's
Yeah.
like
I think
moving
it's
from like
intense.
low
That's
culture of
I don't think it's
farm
hesitant in
equipment
the slightest.
to like a high culture.
It's
class.
a lot easier progress. I think it,
And that's like, or even the order.
yeah, I think it's
3D decoration that like.
Can we use the yellow? No.
Some that were put that her almost that were not in my.
Oh, these are right.
Oh, this was okay, you were talking.
I'm sure. I don't know if you had them over there. Or not.
I don't think I did.
Okay.
I thought you were pulling out the ones that were like added to the.
I would think
section.
it's-
Yeah.
I mean, I really don't know. Just looks like he's
Yeah, I
himself.
was like looking at it.
Yeah.
Like,
And then repetition, or like
there's a lot of irritation.
Yeah.
There's different role sheets. I don't want to say like.
I
No, I would say too, but I don't think that's the purpose of this.
There's, in one of these, it says
So-
like it's in open space.
Yeah, that's
True.
Seems like
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
what we should be doing now. That was
I think that's what we
You would argue?
It looks like a field
You
that
argue
has
about
been
this is
programmed.
now-
Mine was
I think it could be
even though like imposedness of like the
He's a civil
court
suit
software.
king,
Like,
like,
communicate strong feelings and emotions. Yes. Even when they're organization.
Especially with the more delicate fragile parts of it.
You have to be like,
This actually is higher than the,
can we use in daily life as
yeah.
joyful times, like this.
Yeah.
I go to change the mind behavior now.
Well, maybe, I don't know.
And then
We would need more background. Share personal history in the form of.
So the only thing.
Sure. I guess I could just start with that, I guess.
I know. Thank you so much.
Yeah, no, it's like not super obvious. You have to
Okay.
I have different words.
Yeah, so different words might have different words in your envelope. If you want to work
Cheerful,
it
and-
out.
We'll do the fidgeting
No.
provides for basic community.
No. What am I?
Oh, you guys can never say combine those.
Yes.
Obviously, but then I
Yeah, I think it's great.
Yeah.
And symbols.
What
Yeah.
it has to say. Yeah.
Have the word loud in here.
Yeah.
It's loud machine. Very quiet inside in some places stained glass though, like in your.
Wow.
It's really
Yeah.
serious
right now because we don't have a
Right.
Yeah.
So like old piece of
Yeah.
machinery that's like social issues.
Oh, but also, like this phrase itself is someone would not expect.
You know, one of the things you
Like,
said.
I love it, feel like maybe nervous in terms of some of the documents you mentioned in the previous section, is like how fragile it is, and how like use it in really anxiety around that, or
Yeah.
anxious around that.
It's about shared stories, like glass ones.
Maybe, not exactly happy,
I would
but
say,
like,
yeah.
I feel like there's always a little bit of a sense of concern around like, absolute normalizing this thing, it's like a
Because we
word,
using
masterpiece, like a fucking word, it sounds like a new word or something, you got this like virtuous step and between the chord, like there's like a sense of play alongside the like serious machine, and
Not
then
to
like
one necessarily.
literally glass or whatever.
Yeah.
Face there, it almost looks like a
Yeah.
little
Yeah, like
Yeah, there's stories.
it's cartoon robot or something.
Yeah.
But I love these cards too, because Sarah Alex this.
Oh, that's true, you can say the not as well, yeah, it's like
You
it's,
said it's not very serious. You said,
I might say it's not serious, so
yeah.
yeah.
It feels like actually very part is, and then like
Yes.
this glass all may not be, or it's like Robin or
I
like
think so.
like
Yeah, it's not shy,
No.
it's big and loud, it's in your face, it's
That's
illuminated.
likely out of understanding maybe the words.
I feel like he's staying on something with non-comfortable,
Like
Oh,
you're
yeah.
decorating it, like
There's
the
no
line pattern
pattern
and like
this
this
one's
one's
not
not
comfortable.
I feel like this has been together.
but for some reason
Even like I think
So she did that.
maybe in the last time we started, there's some more like elevated right now. Already, maybe it's something you have to think about, and also like how it's also possibly sacred,
Yeah.
possibly precious,
Yeah.
or whatever.
True.
Especially with some of the places I've heard of, where it's like, it's a character, it's like, it's like a character you see in like a knockoff Cars movie or something,
Yes.
like it's not like nice Pixar one, it's like a kind of weird looking one, but it's not.
Yeah,
So
and they
it's
say
also
something
interesting,
but they are and I know a lot of people die in combat.
Oh gosh.
Well, like,
Oh,
they get
yeah.
Oh, yeah. It's a very dangerous machine.
And the fact that, yeah, that he calls it a master eater, is like eating into that, feel like this is a thing that chews stuff up.
Yeah.
Just destroys. I don't think it's the best I've ever heard anybody talk about this.
Midwest.
Yeah, we are. Literally.
We get to look at the things right, yeah. And again, they might be different, different envelopes, but I'll put mine out.
It's nothing about her response in her. She just wants to. She just wants to. Collaboration with others. Text and image using text and
Yeah,
images.
no, the little face that you would, younger kids.
Yeah.
You would make sure that they're all.
Yeah.
But I don't have those, I didn't pass.
And I did it, I just did this in the gallery like this semester. Yeah, I laid them all out on the table and had them come up and just pick one or four lines.
They find an artwork.
One from this descriptive, one from expressive. We didn't get into themes and ideas, we were just kind of surfacing with the intro class.
I think so. I was thinking about how well this could be used in a museum or.
You could go in with your follow seats.
Yeah.
I'm just remembering by all the Europe.
Yeah.
And he often would say, you know, you can just start saying, yeah, not just saying, what do you see, blah, 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 what's this about? I mean, as your first kid, you know, I mean, that's another way in.
It's all I did the sheet when we did the piece.
Yeah,
Gave
yeah.
us, I was like, this would be a really helpful tool, like written out on a sheet.
Yeah, I think talking to Marilyn yesterday about how when we in 296 we do like, or we draw upon like the describe, analyze, interpret, and judge models. And then first thing was like Jason here was trained on that model, so he can walk us through that really, really well. But this also takes us in so many different directions in terms of like our work.
You see in the packet, in the teaching, you know, and how the instructional thing that comes with the resource. That this is, I make a mistake that this is actually focusing on interpretation.
No, what's that?
Personal bias, I think the honors is that that's more important because I think so many students, both in the college classrooms as well as younger kids, we just wanna go straight to judgment. And I just wanna, I just prolong that, I don't wanna go, but there's a thing called extending the conversation, and it's a whole thing on judgment, and how, you know, you can move from this and then begin to talk about what merit or significance or value might this have in more value, you know, begin to have that whole conversation, which it isn't like good or bad, it's like, what, assuming it has merit, what kind of merit? Yeah. So there's, that's part of it. And
I don't like this today.
The judge.
I don't like the analyze.
That's one that, like, yeah, leads a lot to the elements of principles.
Yeah,
It's like you identify the stuff, now you like tag it with the elements of principles, and then you get to start interpreting.
How appropriate.
Interpretation is the
Yeah.
first.
So, the rest was just like describing
Sorry,
them, so.
sorry.
Okay,
what
on that
I
line,
said,
interpretation.
folded out,
People notice
and then it's
themes in their cards or something else that starts to kind of.
Extra.
It's relation and play.
Yeah, especially with the
It's not used in daily life
I would say,
Yeah, that's kind of a negative, not card.
that's very nice.
It's about status or model. There's come on, like $400,000. Especially in that too.
Yeah, yeah.
Made it not functional.
You love
I
the
mean,
modern
not functional and
Or like luxury automobiles. They're like, you know, you can like go drive themselves, you can have AC, you can have music, like. It's like the
What is it? It's about
culture, like the culture of themselves.
Also about nature in a way.
I'd say this one is about the idea of beauty, like making something like mechanical and destructive into something that's like creative and beautifying.
And it's kind of making you think about like what this artist thinks beauty is or what thinks beautifying is. Like there's lots of, you know, you can sprinkle graffiti all over this, and that'd be another way to like aesthetize stained glass, which maybe is the artist idea, or maybe it's like you had mentioned, this artist connects with like Midwestern rural audiences, and so it could be the artist's idea of what the audience's idea of beauty is, like church glass or something like that too. Like,
Oh my god,
sprinkle
yeah.
bubbles or stuff.
Yeah. The combine itself also provides for a basic.
The combine does, and then the artwork doesn't, so it's a positive and a negative connections, yeah. It's been rendered useless, even though it's a really expensive thing, right? So,
What I learned
Did you already
in
talk
school
about technology?
no, I was eyeing that card, though, I had that one too.
So
but
basically,
They
it's.
call it the masticator, I guess, it's like, it's a technological thing, and maybe there's some ambivalence about what it's doing or what it can do.
Last one
So I
would
would
be
say
about
something-
a place,
I want to say
because
something about how
it's
we
like,
use
it
this
is
like a
agrarian and like churchy,
in, like, a
also,
positive way,
it has that feeling of rural.
So like it comes from this parent, is it considered?
I love that you
Exactly, I think
churchy.
it's
Have you had that
using
conversation
that in
before?
the sense that it's
Yeah.
Because I like that because the
culture background.
you know, what does this remind you of is a good question, you know, and you say, well, stained glass windows remind me of church, you know, and so, you know, you need to, like, those kind of things can be important in an interpretation or things that are, that come to mind.
Didn't have a chance or the opportunity to grow up in that.
So it could be used in a celebration. I don't know what celebration, but like,
You can see this at like a county fair or
Exactly.
something, right?
a farm party.
Yeah,
Those are very
yeah.
year.
Is that right?
Yes.
Oh, wow.
You would like go to the field.
Oh, neat.
Oh, farm
I've been
party.
to farm parties.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We would always have like bonfires and stuff out by the doors.
Well, you call there's barn parties and there's
Oh.
field parties.
Yeah.
There's a difference.
Move here.
Sneakiness.
I was at a barn party over the weekend. It's a common party.
I think we can give clues different roles people play.
Yeah.
So also the levels of art here too, like when you're thinking about like Goldsworthy and how he experiences art himself in nature, and then the photographs are a different level of the art. So this would be like the sculpture and the installation, and then the photographs are communicates further.
The things that, when clients, at some point when you move to like answering, creating a thesis, take turns leading a group to construct a thesis, whatever, construct a thesis sentence. Some of the screen cards that you found, to resonate, you might want to hang on to as you kind of figure out how they're putting together that thesis sentence. You might be able to use some of these things in the statement that you create.
Marilyn, these cards go back to you, correct?
Yes. But you're getting your own set.
Oh,
I like it. I like it.
I told you what they all mean.
Oh, and then you know what, they need that, they do need that, so my next level of creative labels, yes. Next time I give about, what, a couple hours, I get my label maker.
Were you telling yourself, right? You were like,
Just be straight up.
Yeah.
No.
So how about we have like 5 more minutes for you, do you have your statement already?
Yes.
Oh, great. Oh, you have your statements already? Oh, this group. So let's have about another 5 minutes, for this group to put their statement together, and then we'll share.
Yeah.
That's a good, put more extra, artist.
Oh, yeah, I'm just trying to give you guys more. There we go. Maybe once you're ready. Yeah.
Carl likes to work with stained plastic because these traditional use in churches and that stories that everyone can get.
As you go to church and it's supposed to be like the biblical stories on the stained glass and like, if you're in like old prints or something, it can't be still learn the Bible off the stained glass.
Yeah.
The story.
Yeah.
Yes. He said, I wanted something that already had its own history, evidence by slowing down, paying attention, and looking at the tears, scuffs, rips, and repairs. That I used the old one.
So I see this my job to provide narrative pleasure for all who experience.
Probably on the
Joy and curiosity generated by art should be accessible to everyone, not just to a select few. He also says he enjoys the outstanding burst of color that's sometimes overwhelming in stained glass. It's like effusive joy.
Carl says, I am a great fan of wordplay, and it's on here because of the title, really, but considering investigator, which compares the processes of the farm combine to cattle chicken food. And then Carl, who grew up working on his family's dairy farm in rural Minnesota, honors the hard labor of agricultural workers.
He said, this piece is very personal to me. My own sweat-stained childhood on a 220-acre dairy farm serves to inspire my reverence for those who work hard and keep our society fed.
Okay. The word reverend, if you write a thesis statement, like it's reviewing the sheep, it's reviewing the process of working on a farm. Yeah.
And reference is a great word.
broad, revered
Sorry.
audience.
Look at you.
Luke is like this.
I understand he writes these articles like this.
I can make a run on like nobody's business. Just keep throwing words at me, I'll add semicolons, we'll get them all in there before I have to make a period.
I used to do proofreading, and the craziest sentence I ever came upon was, I happen to be just about to get into something more important. For a while.
Alright, do we wanna share that since
Yeah.
we've all got their statements?
Right, okay, so, I think Rose and, Tori are about to, you're just finishing yours?
Yeah, no, I'm just a little writer.
Oh,
There's a lot of words in between the words.
okay, so let's, I mean, this is real informal, let's just share, a lot of time, you might have students come up with many, different, like one way to do this is to have to take turns leading the group in creating the thesis sentence, and then they have several to choose from, they have to then choose their favorite, or the one that they think, does talks about it best. So, but basically, in this case, I just asked you to come up with one. So, if you would share, that'd be great. Tell us the artwork that you looked at, and tell us what you came up with. And you can talk more about, you can even talk about other things that you said as well.
So we did Jeffrey Gibson. This is his work. So he was raised in the United States, Germany, Korea, and England, but his parents are Mississippi, Choctaw, and Cherokee descent. And we were talking about how he pulls from multiple different cultures in order to reach a more broad audience, but also is trying to connect with that audience by giving the statement of people like us.
So yes, you should tell us, yeah, so this particular piece says, people like us,
Yeah, right on the chest.
right? Which has a kind of,
He also pulls from a lot of pop culture. He's really into song mashups and things like that. People Like Us is actually a Kelly Clarkson song title that he pulled from.
Did you find that on your, did you know that, or did you
I
find that on?
was in here.
I wrote that.
No, I just don't know things like that.
Okay, and you also talked about Jeffrey Gibson, so you want to share it?
Yeah, so we, bouncing off of that, our thesis is moving a culture forward into the modern age. So with a lot of Gibson's work, he uses modern day materials that are used to kind of replicate what that culture would use instead of actually using them, and I think that's to bring it into more of a modern sense. And like Tori said, he's using those modern notions of like the Kelly Clarkson song, and then bringing that into his artwork and applying that into that culture.
Great. And over here?
Oh.
Rachel.
We had Janet Epelman's work. She creates these big pieces in public for viewers to see so they can get lost in. She mentions how she likes putting them in different environments like the forest and beach, but there's no better place to put them in a city with a bunch of people. In my statement, I wrote Janet Epelman collaborates with others. She collaborates with a bunch of scientists and other engineers to make these and spends a lot of time making models. So that's more context to what I wrote. She collaborates with others to communicate different ideas of beauty for the public to experience.
And did you write this up on that?
I did.
Okay, I was Riley.
So she uses and collaborates with engineers to create interactive large-scale installations in cities and populated areas. She said she put chairs underneath them, which was kind of fun. These areas beautify the surrounding area, and they use technical materials that are meant to withstand extreme weather situations, which was very interesting.
She had a piece at the museum that, a lot of people, it was a real contemporary craft show, and I think I just saw something about it, it's finally being taken down, but I'm not sure. So if anybody's heading to DC, you'd wanna go to the Redwood and experience this unbelievable excellent piece. And, we did a thing for the elementary series, the STEAM cards that we created, we looked at her, and we had this whole activity where kids work with netting and clothespins and all kinds of, we really experience like, the idea of force and tension, I think they are. And to create, like to see what she's up to with, and I did all kinds of in service with that anyway.
I was wondering when I saw the photos, he was the person that had done the piece at the Redwood.
Oh, so you experienced
Yeah,
that?
when I was teaching in Virginia,
Oh,
that was one of my favorite places to go, and yeah, that piece also has that steam connection, because it's about like the tsunami that hit Japan
Yeah,
in
exactly.
2000.
Right.
It's like the seismic graph is the shape of the netting.
Yeah, it's really, I mean, yeah.
Yeah.
And just while we're on Janet Eckelman, find her TED Talk. It's a wonderful TED Talk, and she just talks about how she started, and she tells that story in there. So it's worth seeing. I could talk all day.
We could too, which is why our little summary is very short, because we did a lot of talking and not a lot of writing. So our artist was Carl Unash, and this piece we saw it in the presentation yesterday, folks who were there. It's the Combine Harvester, and it has like stained glass panels embedded in different facets of it. And it's called Ruminant, the Great Masticator. And one of the panels is like a man with a mustache eating an ear of corn. And after reading about him, the way we kind of summed it up is that Carl Unash's work is about accessibility of art experiences, such as narratives, to a broad and revered audience, because there's a theme in his work of like taking everyday objects, especially everyday objects, to like working rural people, and aestheticizing them or beautifying them using stained glass, which is another like familiar form of beauty to like a church-going rural community, and a way to like communicate narratives and like reflect narratives back at people. And he talked a bit about like reverence for that culture, rather than like being condescending or patronizing to a culture. I think he mentioned that he like grew up like sweating with this machinery and stuff, so he's not like helicoptering in from somewhere else and like making art for these rural people.
Oh, yes, right.
Yeah.
Which is something we think about, you would think about here because, and I've learned to think about because I've just spent a little bit of time with you, because of the work that you do.
Yeah, with any community, you wanna be always about working with, not doing for, right? Yeah. Cool. Awesome. Thank you. 10 minutes to grab some sandwiches, so we can stay longer, I think, too, right?
We can stay in here, but I know some of our new student teachers don't have to work from school. No? Yes, Rose?
I will be with you.
Okay, so
Same.
we want you to eat, but we also want to take a picture of our group.
Yes.
I'll bring a picture first.
Should we do a picture
Yeah,
first?
let's do it.
But I just, I had one more thing, and that is that, this kind of work, leads to, as I said earlier, like the whole, a deep dive, and, I hope that you would remember that. The other thing is, I just wanted to share that like these artworks that I used in my units of instruction as a sort of an opener, Carl's work we used in celebration, because it was celebrating that world culture. Identity for Sonia. And all of a sudden I can't remember what Jeffrey, I cannot remember. Anyway, so much for that. Sorry. And the Janet Eckelman was beauty. Yeah, so, but then, and then these are all having to do with identity, and like, and we start with Sonia, but these are all other works that are in that chapter, so you could show her work and then other works that deal with identity. If I had time, I'd love to tell you about this wonderful piece. Audition Memorial, this is an Aboriginal artist, that's a self-portrait. Anyway, so this is in and out, and this introduced Richard Cleaver, then we got into reliquaries and looked at historical reliquaries, and then from all over, and then introduce even contemporary reliquaries, and then these are the ones that we have in the book. This by this Becky McDonough, and she created a reliquary for packing peanuts. and then we introduced that in the book, and then the kids. Oh yeah, those are the kids, and then they create their own reliquary. There's Maya's and Sophia. And then there's the ones that we feature in the book that people did, kids did. And there were sheets and all that go with like outside it in, and then the other artists who did stuff, I'm not gonna do that anymore. So, but the whole point is that you can start with this, and it just takes you forever, to all these different places, and that's the challenge, the joy and the challenge of curriculum design, and I'm sure you're experiencing it already. Particularly when you have like 6 weeks and that's it with a middle school group. So I know. All right, bye. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for giving us a copy of the box.
Oh,
This is such an amazing resource.
Oh, good. Thank you. Yeah, and then you just make your copy.